Hello everyone, it's Silvia. Welcome back to my channel. If you remember, this video will be accessible to you before everyone else. So basically, this is a video in which I'm going to show you all of the decks that I'm going to rehome. I'm going to put them up for sale in order for these decks to have a better life. Simply because when it comes to Tarot and Oracle decks, unless they are a collectible items, if I don't feel like using them for whatever reason, they just stay there on a shelf collecting dust, and I just don't think that it's fair to them. When it comes to my members, they always have a direct access to these videos because should they see some deck they are interested in, then they have priority over everyone else, and they can get in touch with me and see whether the deck they're interested in is still available. If you want to get in touch with me, you can via an email, or you can also write a comment under this video, although you will still have to send me an email because I do not have access to your email addresses. If you want to purchase one of these decks, please understand this, and I always say this. When it comes to the price that I sell these decks for, it's usually less than 50% of the price of the deck, unless it's an indie out of print, hard to find deck. In that case, it's always after a very careful consideration and benchmark against what this deck has been selling for on eBay or Facebook groups, etc. So you will always get a fair price out of me. However, unfortunately, I do have to charge you for shipping. And when it comes to shipping, it really doesn't make sense to purchase for example, mass market deck from me, especially for mass market decks that are still available for sale in your own country, because more likely than not, the shipping costs will be a lot cheaper. So that's all I wanted to say. I am based in Australia, so if what you're interested in is a mass market deck, and you live in Australia, by all means, reach out to me. If you're based overseas, then you might actually not, you might consider that shipping cost will make it not a very smart purchase. So I will not justify the reason why I'm rehoming deck by deck, simply because I have so many that we're going through today, really a lot. And that depends on the fact that I haven't been doing this type of video for a couple of months already, and now it's become a necessity. The majority of the decks that I'm going to rehome are copies, as in not copies as in not legitimate. They are legitimate decks, but they are a second copy that I've got. Most of the time is because I receive a lot of gifts, and sometimes I also buy decks in bulk. And when I do buy decks in bulk, maybe 8 decks out of 12 I already have, but I really want the remaining 4. And I always try and contact the seller, trying and understand if it's possible to purchase only the 4 that I don't have, but they prefer to sell the bulk. I completely understand. I will probably do the same. So let's start with, I don't know, because there's so many here. I'm just going to be really quick. And I'm going to start with the minis, and these minis I generally have acquired throughout the years. I've acquired the full size, and so I really like them. They're very beautiful. So the Gilded Tarot Royale by Ciro Marchetti, the Witch's Tarot by Ella Dugan, and the Mystical Manga Tarot by Rant and Barbara Moore. So these are all minis, and let me just quickly, actually there's other minis. Why don't I do this? Because otherwise this is going to be a super duper long video. I'm going to put all of the minis here, and then quickly we're going to look at 1 or 2 cards. So the Exile, this is the Awaken Exile or the Silent Exile. Well, we'll see. So the Awaken one has the faces. I think that this one has the faces, so it's the Awaken. I have the full size, actually deluxe edition of this deck. It's so beautiful. Then, sorry, but the Mushroom Tarot, it's gotta go. I've talked about this deck a couple of times already, and I don't feel like I need to justify my choice anyway. The Tarot of the Unknown. This is Okay, as far as minis go, obviously it's slightly bigger than a mini, but it's still not full size. The Tabula Mundi and the Orion's Animal Tarot, I believe these are all the minis. So let's just quickly start with the last one here. I've done a deck study of this deck with my members. We had so much fun, but because many of my members did not have this deck in specific, then we actually turned it into a multi or let's say a cross-deck study about animals being used in images and effigies when it comes to representing the meaning of tarot cards. And it's been a lot of fun. So if you want to join my membership, that video, even though it's a video from, it's not one video, it's 2 months worth of videos and material from a couple of months ago, you still have access, and you can download the material if you want to do a study of this deck. So that's the Orion's Animal Tarot. The Mushrooms Tarot, it's not the tarot, sorry, the Mushroom Oracle. It's a drawer kind of box. Every time I had to remind myself because I tried to open it as if it were a wraparound magnetic, but it's not. Really gorgeous images, really gorgeous images. Doesn't resonate with me. It's just for the images. These are not actual, not, let's say many of them are real mushrooms, or at least they depict them, but many of them are not. And it just doesn't, yes, it's gorgeous, but it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't tell me anything, it doesn't speak to me. And even though it does have messages at the back, the messages are not particularly chatty to me. So I am going to rehome it. I am sure that there will be someone who appreciates this deck more than I do, because it's just gathering dust on a shelf. Then the Gilded Tarot Royale by Ciro Marchetti. I have the full size. This is an amazing deck. Ciro Marchetti's decks are very powerful. I would say that I was a bit worried that maybe the mini edition of one of these decks would not have been so powerful, because obviously you don't have the same extent of exposure to the images on the cards that you will have on a full-size deck. But I would say I did not have a problem at all. Although, can I just say, this one looks like Benicio del Toro to me. Every time that I look at this card, which is the Magician, I think about Benicio del Toro. And I like him. Absolutely, I like him. But he's played so many movies and I've watched him in so many movies that it confuses me, because my brain immediately tries and understand what movie that is taken from, even though, it, it doesn't work that way. So my brain is trying to cover something that cannot be covered. Really weird, but that's not a deal breaker. I have this stack in a full size and I'm happy to rehome the mini because, someone might want to try it out. Sometimes I buy mini decks. So this is the Witch's Tarot. I buy mini decks because I want to not spend or not commit too much. These are obviously cheaper than their full-size edition. And I'm not entirely sure about if I like them or not. Or sometimes I like them so much that I need two versions. Or sometimes I like them but I want to take them with me when I travel. And so a mini is objectively a lot easier to carry. But then when I get back home and I have the full size of this deck and I really like it, in that case, I'm pretty happy to let the mini go because I just want somebody else to enjoy it. So that was The Witch's Tarot by Ellen Dugan. By the way, these last two, no, The Gilded was published by Llewellyn. So these last two, Llewellyn, the Mushrooms was a Wiser deck, and what was it? The Orion's Animals Tarot was from Rockpool. This is another Llewellyn, and this is an indie deck. And these two are also indie decks. Now, please be aware that I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that the Tarot of the Unknown, even though it is a smaller edition, is out of print and not necessarily super easy to find. And the Tabula Mundi is not out of print, but it is an indie deck. So they might come with a slightly higher price mark. This one is the mystical manga tarot. I was in my manga period and I felt like I really wanted to grab everything that I could find on the market when it comes to this very specific particular style. But then what I understood is that I'm not particularly interested in what I call the post Sailor Moon manga tarot. And by post Sailor Moon, I will, well, you just have to look at the cards to understand what I mean. There was a period of time in which manga all had different styles, and I really liked them because they looked a lot more like what I was used to in my childhood. I was watching manga and anime rather. I was watching anime on TV all the time because we had a few TV channels that were buying rights from NHK or NKH. NHK, I believe it is, from Tokyo, so a channel from Tokyo, Japan, that was releasing these anime, Japanese anime. And so that Italian channel was buying the rights and was releasing them in Italy. And I would spend hours in front of a TV, I kid you not, every day, maybe a couple of hours every day without exaggerating, but I just love them so much. And I watched so many of those manga, but then Sailor Moon came by, and every single manga after that started looking like Sailor Moon. And so I did not dislike Sailor Moon, but I still prefer the style of manga that was from the period pre-Sailor Moon. So all of those were just absolutely beautiful. I do have a manga tarot, an indie one, that is based on that pre-Sailor Moon style that I really love. And I do have the full size of the mystical manga tarot, but one day I feel like I will probably reown it as well because it just doesn't resonate as much as the other manga. This is the Tabula Mundi tarot. It's a mini edition. Mind you, okay, there is a couple of minis edition from Tabula Mundi. I believe this one may be the mini, and then there's a midi. So, I will, if you're interested, I will actually tell you the measurement of this deck because I just want to make sure that you understand which one this one actually is. And it's a thought deck. It's, as you can see here, a certificate of authenticity. It is an indie deck, as I was saying. It's actually really gorgeous. And I was so super lucky to put my hands on a full-size copy. And I'm very happy about it because the images, the illustrations, the colors, and also when it comes to the symbolism, when it comes to a thought deck or a thought-inspired deck, the more symbols, the better, because they are supposed to actually create that bridge of understanding that you definitely need when you're reading a deck like this. And as far as symbology goes, this one is actually a bit of a mix between modern symbols. There's actually a magician that looks like a DJ. The star is super beautiful. Overall, I would say that the art style is really stunning. But when I've acquired the full-size deck, I really don't think like I would ever go back to the mini or midi or whatever this one is called because it is smaller. And when you have so busy a card, so busy an image, you kind of do want to see or be able to see as much as possible. However, if you're not like me and needing glasses for practically everything in life right now, and your eyesight is still perfect, then this might be the deck for you. And reach out if you want this one because it's an indie deck. I'm open to ship it pretty much anywhere you want, just as long as you please cover the shipping costs. Then when it comes to the Tarot of the Unknown, this one is the mini, let's say it is a mini edition. There's so many edition of this deck. I also believe that there was recently, probably within 2 months, a Kickstarter campaign. So there was even another edition of this deck. It's based obviously on Over the Garden Wall, a show from a few years ago. And there's a few guides here that will help you interpret the cards. I would say that you don't necessarily need to know Over the Garden Wall or to have watched Over the Garden Wall to use this deck. But honestly, if you can watch it, and I think you can still find it, it probably is still streaming somewhere, or you can probably find it on YouTube. I don't know, but in any case, do yourself a favor and check it out because it is really interesting. It is very whimsical, and also there's a reason behind all of the let's say the images that you can see here, because it is obviously based on that show. It will be so much easier for you to understand the reason why these subjects have been chosen to represent these specific cards and why and how they do that. And so, I would definitely recommend, if you don't know if you know the show already, you love the show, you want this deck and you couldn't find it, and you're okay with this being this size, then absolutely just send me an email and let me know if you're interested. This is obviously one of those decks that for me, it's very niche. And I would say it reads really well, but I wouldn't use it, let's say, for 12 months, the whole year round. This is a very specific deck that I use during the month of Spooktober. It does have those kind of vibes. It's an indie deck. I think it might be out of print. I'm not entirely sure. This is the Exile, and I'm pretty sure that it's the Awaken edition. So between the Awaken and the Silent edition, the difference is that the Silent edition does not have faces. And that is one of the reasons why I do have the deluxe edition of this one, and it's also the Awaken edition because I need faces. There's no two ways around that. I need to see their expression. I need to understand what they're thinking. I need to have at least a slight indication of what they want me to know about what's going on in the card. This is an incredibly beautiful deck. It was also a Kickstarter campaign from a few years ago, and I was lucky enough to find the deluxe standard size copy and also the mini, and I got both of them. I don't know why. I should have just gotten the mini and then gotten the if I liked it. That's what I normally do. But at the time, I felt like I probably wouldn't have had so many possibilities to acquire the full size one because it's not a mass market deck. Really gorgeous deck. So if you're interested, again, please let me know via email. And I don't know whether this one is still available or not, so it might be out of print as well. These were all the minis. And let's just move quickly through other decks that I want to part ways with for whatever reason. So this one is Czerwone. It's a Slavic or Eastern Europe inspired RWS clone with fantastic color associations. And yes, it is a little bit, let's say, minimalist when it comes to the colors themselves, but the contrast with the black and the whites and the red, and that is literally all of the colors, is really striking. Very beautiful imageries, gorgeous deck. As I said, an RWS clone. So obviously, if you know your RWS, you'll be able to pick up this deck and read out of the box directly because it really does not go out of meaning here. The images are reflecting the ones that we saw, know from, and we have known for a long time. Really, really gorgeous deck. The cardstock is very glossy, so you will have to keep this in mind because it does mean that unless you use it a fair bit, it does tend to, the cards do tend to stick one to the other when you're shuffling them. But that is not a huge issue because if you've ever had a deck like that, you will know that after a while it actually solves the problem itself. It is an indie deck. Then mass market deck, and I think that the next ones are all mass market decks that I am rehoming because I found them in a bulk buy, and there were a couple of decks that I really wanted, and I spoke to the person, and she said, like, look, if I only sold I know you only want, this in such and such and such deck, but if I only sell them, then I will never get rid of the other ones. And so I was like, you know what, I completely understand. And I can rehome the ones that I have, that I will have as double, so it's fine. This is the Kitchen Witch Oracle. And this is the deck that we've used with my members for the Energies of the Week videos a few months ago. It was so much fun because for each and every one of these cards, I was actually reading the spells out loud and I was inviting the members to try them out. And we had a whole month doing spells. And some of these spells are very powerful. I myself have tried a few of these, and I can highly recommend this deck. It is a mass market deck from Rockpool. It is still available. So I would say if you are interested in this deck, but you are overseas, I highly encourage you to check out local availability because you will find it for a much cheaper price when you include the shipping cost. Another deck that is still mass market is the Feminine Myths Oracle by Anna Novaes. I love this Oracle deck so much. It's incredible. The art style is amazing. The guidebook is fantastic. Okay. I have it already and I really love it. I love the colors. I love the art style. It pairs up really nicely with the Soul's Reflection Tarot, which is by Sunshine Connolly, but the illustrator is Anna Novaes as well. So obviously you do have this continuity in the art style. I mean, seriously, look at the colors. The combination of the blacks and the whites and the saturated reds and blues, this is just absolutely amazing. I also love the fact that this deck kind of kicked my ass because I don't necessarily know all of these goddesses or feminine myths. And so in order to be able to read these cards, I had to go back to the guidebook several times, which normally would kind of be a deal breaker for me. But when this deck is this beautiful, then I don't mind doing that. Look at Freya. Amazing. So really, really gorgeous deck, the Feminine Myths. As I said, this is my, actually what I'm doing is I'm rehoming my original copy. So I'm keeping the last one that I got, but they're always really well kept. I mean, if you ever acquired a deck from me, you will remember and you will know that I treat my decks the same way I treat my rings, for example. So they're very, very safe with me. The Love Oracle by Christefania, same thing. This is a surplus copy that I've got. Very surreal. If you are a fan of the Mystical Moment Tarot and Oracle decks, you will love this deck, but also Elizabeth on Earth if you want to look into an indie deck that resembles those ones. This is very similar. The guidebook is amazing, really, really well written. And so perhaps you might want to consider this one. It is an indie deck. Sorry, it's not an indie deck. It's a mass market deck. And but I had to buy it from Germany, I believe. It's not in German, as you can see here, it's in English. So I don't know, it's just I don't necessarily see it that often around. But this is seriously, this is an amazing deck. If you do love this kind of surreal style, these decks were so popular last year in 2025 because it was the year of the Hermit. And when it comes to the year of the Hermit, we all had this kind of cognitive dissonance in which the brain was kind of struggling to understand what was real, what was not, and what to believe in. And when we look at these cards, there's kind of the same kind of procedure or process that the brain is going through. And it's thinking, okay, I'm seeing something, but I'm not entirely sure that I can believe what I'm seeing. So I may look again. So really excellent deck, really beautiful, absolutely gorgeous guidebook, as I said. And highly recommend it. Even if you are overseas, obviously, I don't recommend for you to buy it off me, but check it out from your local supplier because it is an incredible deck. Same thing goes with the Oracle of Awakening by Lalania Simone. This is really gorgeous. Look at the gilding on the top of this box. Really beautiful colors. Absolutely intriguing when it comes to the thematics, because this one is not a tarot deck. Is, I believe, to this day, the only Oracle deck that Lalania has produced. When it comes to the Oracle deck, this one is quite complex in the sense that it is structured in a kind of a different way from what you would probably be used to and what I am used to. So it does require a little bit of work, let's say, in understanding how to use this deck and how to use the cards. As you see, they are divided in different kind of, let's say, groups. They are incredibly beautiful and insightful. The art style, if you know Lalania Simon's tarot decks, you will recognize the art style immediately. Yes, it is very familiar, very beautiful, very, let's say, sacred geometry, but also cosmic vibes and astrology charged as far as vibes go. And I would say really beautiful. I'm just, I have another copy of this deck, and so I'm pretty happy to release this one. By the way, the gilding, every time I look at it, it feels like it's by bicolor, like blue, unicorn blue and unicorn pink. And I just really love it. And I don't know how they were able to achieve this, because it would be absolutely fantastic to add other decks that have the same style. So Oracle of Awakening. And okay, so there's another deck that I've actually received the English copy of this deck that I've got mass market in French. So when I was in Paris a few years ago, I acquired this Oracle deck, the Oracle de Magique Medium, by Aniel Reed, Alicia Mathieu, and Phronesis. And this is the French edition, so it's a mass market released by Arcana Sacra. But there's also an indie English edition, and I've heard from this person who sent me the English edition that it's going to come out mass market for the English edition as well. I have not heard that directly from any source, but it is very possible. And as a matter of fact, I don't want to say something that is not correct, but I think I've already seen a prototype. I may have been dreaming. It may have been a dream. So please don't just do your own research, because I'm not entirely sure. When it comes to, let's say, French decks and French mass market decks, Arcana Sacra is my favorite publisher from all time, because they're absolutely amazing. Their products are very valuable. 100% happy with these with these products. I have absolutely nothing to say, oh, maybe this one could have been done in a different way. I think that they've done a fantastic job. The guidebook is really rich with information. Obviously, it's in French, and when it comes to decks that come in a language that is not your own, I highly recommend that you check out whether you can work with them or not before you actually purchase them. Because honestly, when it comes to the keywords on the cards, I would agree that they're not that difficult. Connaissance is knowledge. Activation is activation. So as you can see, Guardian is guardian, and so on and so forth. So it might feel like it's actually a lot easier than what it actually is. When you pick it up, you might feel like it's kind of difficult to use it because you need to go back to the guidebook, and the guidebook is 100% French. And perhaps even by using the many, many translating apps that we have nowadays, it might not make sense. And this is just my warning to you. It is an incredible deck. It is super beautiful. I cannot wait for the English edition to be the mass market English edition. If it does come out, I cannot wait to see what they do with it. And I kind of hope that it will be released by Ocvo, but I have absolutely no news whatsoever about that. Now, there's another couple of decks that I wanted to talk about. And you see, I'm going to be completely transparent. I don't know, I feel like every time I say this, there's like 99% of comments from you guys that are overwhelmingly positive and supportive, and I love you for that. But there's always someone that says, well, if you don't want to be judged, don't have a YouTube channel. And I'm like, I completely agree. I understand. I am 100% agreeing. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel for anything if I wasn't okay with being judged. Having said that, when a comment is just about judging and doesn't really offer me the opportunity to improve on myself, then I just don't see how to use it. So the reason why I'm going to be completely honest is because I feel that I'm not the only one. I was really disappointed by the Rhythm and Soul Tarot by Stacey William, and I have the Southern Gothic Oracle, which is one of my favorite ones, and it's so cool. And I did buy the additional Haunted pack to that deck, and I really expected the process to be as smooth as it was when I bought the Oracle deck at the time in which I backed this tarot deck. The idea is freaking awesome. A tarot deck that is based on some of the music genres that are very much my favorites, the jazz and blues and roots and rock. And the execution, I feel that there was so much soul and blood and tears that were poured into the creation of this deck that it was such a huge disappointment that for many reasons that were independent from the really hard work put in by the creator, but it made this a really unpleasant experience. When it comes to the Kickstarter campaign, many of us had the same experience. It's about, I'm not going to repeat myself because I've talked about it a few times. We were, how should I say this in a very politically correct way? I was quoted a price for shipping, and then when the moment came and I had to pay, it was more than twice as much. When inquiry for the reason why, and I'm talking about $100 Australian for the shipping, just the shipping, not the deck, not the add-ons, nothing. When I inquired about it, I was told that it was because the guidebook would have been a printout rather than just a PDF, and so obviously that would add up to the weight. I thought to myself, yeah, but still, I don't really want to justify spending $100 just for shipping, so I had it sent to my forwarding address in Portland, Oregon, and I spent like bugger all, just really, really low price. Like we did domestic shipping, but very low price. Then from to get it delivered in Portland, and then from Portland to Sydney, Australia, it was only $30 Australian, including insurance, including tracking. It arrived in the usual 2.5 weeks, nothing different. So the moment in which I opened the package, I understood what was going on. It was not the guidebook that was adding up to the weight, or rather, yes, it was of course adding up to the weight because it was a physical copy. But the reason why it was so expensive was that the box was huge. And the guidebook is actually the same size as the box. So it wasn't the guidebook the problem. The problem was that there was a poster. And the poster obviously was a normal sized poster. And it was rolled up, obviously, but it occupied a lot of room. And because of that, it needed to stay in a big box. This wasn't Stacey's fault at all. And it was just at the fulfillment center, whatever was it called, the shipping company, fulfillment company, whatever it was called. They didn't necessarily think this through. And that's one of the reasons why it was very disappointed. Everything was upside down. There was no padding at all. It was just the deck and the poster. The poster was ruined. It was full of dents. Everyone knows that. I tried also, many of you recommended trying to iron it out with like a piece of fabric on top, and then maybe even steam it. I tried everything. I don't want to ruin it. I'm the one who's not capable of doing these things, but maybe there was nothing to be done. So it went straight to the bin. I was also kind of upset and emotionally upset. On top of everything, there was supposed to be a guitar pick. I do play guitar. It would have been so freaking awesome to have it. It was nowhere near. I tore the box apart because many of you told me look into the folds of the box because it was hiding that. it wasn't that. So I'm imagining that either they forgot to put it in or it fell out because it was not protected. It was not in a sleeve or anything. I heard from many of you that were also upset because it was very difficult to find, and many of you would have thrown away the box without realizing that you got trapped under the folds. So there were a number of things. And then on top of everything, I open it. Sorry about the rant, but that's something that I want to share. I'm not ranting for justifying my choice. I'm ranting also because I feel like many of us need to hear what happened. And so guidebook is fantastic, really well written. I really love it. And the cards themselves don't necessarily resonate with me, but that is just a normal thing that can happen. It just got nothing to do with what happened at the fulfillment center, obviously. And this was the box. So as you can see here, the box came ruined. It was just not strong enough to support the weight of the cards that went like this the whole time. And more likely than not, because the fulfillment company did not put any padding inside. Literally, it was just this inside a huge box and the poster. So the poster was ruined. The box was ruined inside. The cards are not ruined, so they're perfectly fine. The gilding, I have used this deck probably twice, 3 times. The gilding is already not perfect, as you can see here. It's already coming off, but this is normal for this type of gilding. So again, I'm telling you every single thing that accumulated into my experience to make it not a great experience. And so at the end of the day, the cards don't even resonate. Every time that I see this deck, I don't feel like picking it up to read with it. So I'm happy to rehome it, and it will just go to someone who will love it. So the next one doesn't. Oh, okay. I was about to say it's kind of got a similar story, but it's not exactly similar. This one, the product itself is perfect, 100%. I have absolutely no problems with the way it's been produced. This is the Spirit Box Woodoo Tarot by Fabio Listrani, who was one of my favorite illustrators. Very edgy, very beautiful, and I really love the box. And as I said, the product value is fantastic, even though this deck was selling for, in some countries, and it's a mass market deck, it's selling for like $80, which I really don't understand, because Oscar Abel is not supposed to inflate the prices like that. But then again, it is a deluxe edition, so I don't know. I personally bought it with a massive sale, during a massive sale. And so I believe I spent 35 euros, 40 euros. So I'm pretty happy with that. Then obviously I had to add shipping. What happens with this deck is that it does not resonate with me at all. It's a fantastic deck, really beautiful. The images are amazing. The guidebook is fantastic. I don't know what else to say about this deck because it is incredible. It's my fault. It's completely just me. It just doesn't resonate because I was supposed to take my time and go through these cards and have a look and understand how they read and understand how to read them and understand the stories behind them and understand how this relates to voodoo and the spiritualism related to voodoo, which I am not 100% ignorant of. I've been to Cuba. I've been to visit the home of the El Gua. I've been to New Orleans. I have on top of everything, honestly, guys, I've actually been to a Santero once, and we've spent like, I don't know, 6 hours talking. So I'm not 100% ignorant of this spiritualism, but this text still does not resonate with me. As a matter of fact, because of the eyes, I do, if you know my channel, if you have been following me, you will know that I have a thing for eyes. In the sense that I find them a little bit disturbing when the eyes are, there's a lot of white cornea in the eyes, like in this case, for example. It just, it makes me feel uncomfortable. It's just my fault. This is just me. It's just my own peculiarity, let's put it this way. But I cannot read with this deck. And one of the reasons why I never really took my time and learned how to read with this deck is also because of the eyes. So at the end of the day, I have to be honest, and I will have to rehome this deck. So then moving on, there is an indie deck, and it's this one here. And this was really a surprise. I was kind of shocked. I wanted this deck for such a long time. It was called in a different way, Alkeringa, originally. When it went into a Kickstarter campaign, I was so happy because I thought to myself, finally, you can get a copy. When I received it, I looked at it, I liked it, and I never used it since. I don't know why. It's just not, I don't know, it doesn't call to me. It's a linen, it's a really beautiful linen stock, really beautiful holographic gilding. It's a beautiful deck, it's got a beautiful book. And I don't know what else to say. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this deck. It also reads, no, so this one is supposed to be let's say, seen as an oniric kind of deck, so a dreamlike kind of deck. Viator Somniorum is the way of the dreams, basically. But I just don't want to use it, maybe because it looks so much like another couple of decks that I've got by Jennifer Sodini. The Mother Nirvana Oracle looks so much, or rather, these two, the Mother Nirvana and this deck here, are so similar that whenever I need to choose a deck to use, even though they read completely differently, because this one is indeed about the trance-like or a dream-like state, and the other one isn't, but they read so they look so similar. The images are so similar that I just end up using the other one instead of this one. And it's a pity because it's a really beautiful deck. So I'm going to part ways with it because it's not fair that I just constantly choose, another deck instead of picking this one up. It feels like I'm almost doing something wrong to this deck. So this one is up for sale. It's an indie deck. And then there's a number of decks that I've talked about in a number of videos, so I'm not going to explain itself anymore. The Star Maiden Tarot by Hannah Hirchen. It's a really beautiful deck by US Games. The colors are very special. This is the guidebook. It contains a lot. The colors, as I said, really special colors. It does have a linen cardstock, so it's a very beautiful production. If you want to pair it up with another tarot deck, which is something that sometimes I do, the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshio Shitani will pair up really nicely with this deck. It will be really my choice. There's other oracle decks that, ironically, the Viator Somniorum would probably pair up really nicely with this deck because it does feel like the characters are closing their eyes and it feels like they're almost dreaming. And so it would look like a very good combo. Again, that would not be enough for me to actually not wanting to rehome this deck. But let me just show you very quickly because that is something I always like to show you how a combo works whenever I can. So as I said, with the Viator Sognarum, but again, it is based purely on the fact that there is a similarity when it comes to the colors, but also because most of the characters have their eyes closed. So as you can see, it works really nicely. They look really nice together. They pair up nicely. You do kind of need to read out of the guidebook for the oracle cards to make sense. However, even if you don't know anything about dream interpretation or lucid dreaming, you can still use this oracle deck, but in your own way, as in reading directly the title of the card and then gathering the information you need from the two tarot cards that you see on the side. So as you can see, these two are actually really great together. And so I'm rehoming both of them. So in this case, if you're interested in the indie deck, And this one is the Star Maiden is a mass market deck, so normally I will not ship it overseas. But if you are interested to buy these two together, then obviously it will, the shipping will be combined and it will be a lot more convenient. So that is obviously a possibility. And then another couple of decks. So Samantha West's Rainbow Moon Tarot. Now Samantha West goes by the name Samrock. Their decks are amazing, and they're mostly published by Rockpool, such as this one. I think that, I've talked about this deck, and I've talked about the reason why it doesn't necessarily resonate with me. There's a number of reasons, so if you want, you can go back and watch that video. This deck is very perfect. I would say, I don't know if you can see here, but there is a slight ear on the corner of the deck. It came this way. All of the cards have it. It's not a deal breaker for me. This is definitely not the reason why I'm rehoming this deck, but I wanted to point that out just in case you want to acquire this deck. Other than that, there's absolutely no other issue or damage of any kind to the cards. And, it's a really beautiful deck. The art style is very recognizable. If you have any other deck by Sam Brook, you will definitely, it will definitely look familiar to you. I have the Macab Tarot, and that is my favorite deck by Sam Brook. And I will never part ways with that deck because it's really, really gorgeous. And the last but not least, I've talked about this one as well before, the Steampunk Tarot, which is my Bioshock deck. By John and Caitlin Matthews. The illustrations are by Will Kingham. This is a Tuttle release. I don't have many decks by Tuttle. I think that one of the reasons why is because they insist on using this kind of split system when they store the cards. And what happens in this case is that, well, now these ones have been shuffled, of course, but you will see there's a kind of that you can actually feel the split, or you can actually visually see it in the cards when I do that. So you see here, I'm not doing it on purpose. This is really literally not. So even if you press them together and then you open them, this is where the two decks split. I have seen this phenomena in all of the decks that have been stored that way. Even the Brimstone and Earthflesh Tarot, which is an indie deck, even that one has the same issue. I don't know why. Maybe it's a matter of humidity that filters through. I have absolutely no idea. It's not a deal breaker. I just wanted to point it out. And it's also because the cards have a very slightly noticeable bow. So this is something to keep in mind. It's a deck that is, I believe, still in print, and it's a mass market deck, so obviously it will be still available. I just don't know how to use this. I like it because, as I said, it does remind me of a video game that I like so much. It's called Bioshock. This is my Bioshock deck. But at the same time, the steampunk vibes and everything that I love so much. At the same time, I just don't feel like it's a tarot deck for me that would call me to use it. And so, I'm just happy to rehome it and pass it on to someone that will definitely take advantage of the beautiful vibes that it's got. And so that was the last deck that I'm going to rehome this month of this. We're not in December anymore, actually, guys. We're in January. So this is the first rehoming of the year. How exciting. So, as I said, if you are a member of my channel, you obviously have access to this video 1 week before everyone else. And so you can get in touch with me and let me know if you're interested in any of these decks. Send me an email and we will talk. But for now, thank you so much for watching and have a lovely weekend. Bye.